So in continuation with chapter 5, let's understand the emergence of public relations. So in general, there are 9 parameters explained, but they all fall down to a very basic parameter, is the cultural differences. Because of globalization, now the world is no more a local market. There are a lot of global players, there are a lot of international players, right? So one product is being made in many countries, manufactured in many countries and sold in many countries. The very basic example of you using this particular phones. So we have Indian made phones, unfortunately they do not run so fine like the Jio phone. And we have international phones as well. We have iPhone, we have Vivo, we have OnePlus, and the list is like really endless. So because so many competitions or so many competitors have come together to fight in a battle of wanting to capture the maximum consumer space, cultural differences are something that's going to be always gonna persist. What we Indians like in terms of the North India versus the South India is different. So naturally, if you talk of India versus America, the food preferences are different, the lifestyle is different, the way of dressing is different, everything is different. So because of all the cultural differences that we have, there is a major need for a PR to be there in each country, in each location that the organization is globally present. And if you have to break down these 9 parameters, the very first is international public. We are dealing with cross-cultural borders now. It's no more restricted to just one nation. Hence, we need to make sure that we communicate rightly with the international public in the language which they understand. All right, a certain spoken language, or a certain verbal language, or a certain way of body language that they understand. Then we move to understanding varied customer or consumer segments. We have male, female, kids who are Indian, kids who are foreigners, girls. In girls, or if you talk of females, we have age group of the young girls. Then we have youngsters or the teenage, the adult age, a certain late 30s, early 30s. So you can see that the segments so vast. So naturally, to cater to each of it, we need to have the right kind of a PR to be able to help us access or be able to communicate rightly to these audiences. Then we have what is the third point, which is competition. Competition, because it's no more restricted just to one nation, one country, one city, one locality. It's a fight between nations of the world. So if you want to, emerge out as a leader or emerge out as a winner, you need to communicate rightly with the help of these peers. Hence, competition was strong. Then we have different cultural environment. As I rightly said, we Indians, when we'll be discussing pestle analysis to understand the PR, we'll understand how for Indians not eating a cow is a holy thing, whereas abroad they are completely comfortable with eating pigs, beef. They're eating pigs in terms of pork, they're eating cows in terms of beef. So culturally, we are very different from each other, right? Then we have the local market preferences. Best example is in 10 rupees, if you're able to get a vada pav in Mumbai, 10 rupees, you might be able to get a papadi chaat in Delhi. So local market, these are my requirements. If I want to start up my food stall, I'll probably have a vada pav outlet because I know that's going to sell more fast. So local market preferences is one parameter as to why we have an international. There is an emergence in terms of international collaboration. Then we have foreign relationship issues. Now, what are these foreign relationship issues? Because each company has its base set up in various nations, and these various nations have various kind of people working with it. So in what works in India may not work in China, may not work in Australia, may not work in US. So based on that, there can be foreign issues or foreign relationship issues. Then we have the commercial, legal and financial risk. Now, what is the meaning of commercial, legal and financial risk? Again, when we are understanding pest analysis, we'll understand this point in detail. And the last is trade blocks or these unions that exist the trade treaties that exist. So when I'm signing a trade treaty with, say for example, initially it was China, it means that we will ensure that there is a smooth flow of import exports. We will price our products such that suits the Indian customers, or we will, of course, we were exporting only a lot of, we were importing a lot of things. So the parameter of them charging us right is what we have to look into. So based on this also, there is a high emergence of PR. Alright. So in general, first we understand that public relations or public PR is a Greek word which means semantikos, or it means the pronunciation is semantikos in Greek, which means to signify. So PR is there basically to signify to the public in general as to what the organization is all about, and time and again help them be in a better position, in a better communication mode with the public. Now in 1903, there was this Mr. Ivy Lee, alright, way back in 1903, who advised Mr. Rockefeller, John F. Rockefeller. Now who is this John F. Rockefeller? John F. Rockefeller in 1903 was one of the wealthiest person alive on the planet. Basically one of the richest person. So what did this Ivy Lee do? He realized that John F. Rockefeller's basically organization was having some issues with its workers. So what he did is he went and told John that, sir, I think you should personally go and visit these workers and understand as to why they're going on strike. And I'm sure that a lot of problems will be sorted then. And as per his advice, Mr. Rockefeller went to its mining site, the coal mining site, and he met these workers and he understood their problems. They had problems of health, hygiene, safety. They said that, sir, we are giving so much, but we are not looked after. So he said that, I'm so sorry, I was sitting on the top management thinking everything is going in place, but now that I'm coming on field, I'm trying to understand what you're doing. I'm able to connect with you all and understand what is the actual shot all about. So he went, he sorted their problems, he improved their conditions drastically, and he had happy workers working for him, which led to a tremendous success, good word of mouth, and at the same point in time, it was a press release also that, see, Mr. Rockefeller, somebody of such high status. Say, for example, in India, when we come to understanding publication in India, it was Ratan Tata sir who, the Tata legacy basically, who understood that it's always better to connect to the lowest level or the lowest person in your organization, because if you are able to be friends with him, means you're able to understand his problems and do something good for him, he or she will always be loyal and they will happily work for your organization. And when employees will happily work for you, naturally, your organization is going to succeed. And hence, that's what Ivy League did. And that's when people realize that, okay, there is this whole concept of somebody being your PR, telling you, advising you what is to be done and how it is to be done. In 1918, Mr. Edward Bernays advised the president of Czechoslovakia, that was just a newly formed country, that, sir, instead of announcing a certain information or a certain independence message to the public on Sunday, it would be better if it were on a Monday. It's like the first week of the day, ideally Sunday is, but working perspective, Monday is the first week of the day, and when you will let the people know on Monday, the impact is going to have is very much stronger. So that's again what Mr. President did. He followed the advice of Edward Bernays, and he made an announcement on Monday which got him the right kind of coverage, which made the people happy, and his presidentship saw a longer career. So what we understand from these two people, Ivy League and Edward Bernays, they basically gave out basic three principles. You speak about people to the people and make them comfortable with it. So if I understand the problems of the people and I'm solving these problems by making it comfortable for all of you, naturally as an organization I have succeeded. So this is what were the principles of PR, and that's how it emerged in the international markets way then. Now let's understand how it came to India. Okay. So now moving on to understanding how public relations emerged in India. So we'll trace back to World War I, which was fought between the greater power and the Allied forces. Now at that point in time, India as a country was in the power or in the cult of the Britishers, right? We didn't have independence at that point in time. We were basically British slaves. So what happened during the World War I is that the British government, with the help of Greater Indian Public Services, that is GIP Railways, it formed a Central Bureau of Information that basically helped or that basically gave out news about what's happening on the warfield because the World War I was fought, and it wanted to understand as to what is the feedback that these Indians have or these people have about the governance of the Britishers. So they would give out information as to the statistics or who is winning, why it's winning, and such of the whole sort. So that was the very first phase, the first stage of public relations entering in India, because they had set up what is commonly today known as the Central Bureau of Information or Bureau of Information. At that point in time, they also wanted to promote tourism in India, right? So that was also the second reason as to why they had set up the Central Bureau of Information. Then came the second stage, that is during the World War II, which was fought between the Allies and the Axis power, the Allies powers and the Axis powers. Now what happened at that point in time, basically, we were still under the British rule only. So they wanted Indians to basically go and fight or be a part of this world warfare. So they set up a second body again in Mumbai. The Central Bureau of Information also was set up in Mumbai. The second Ministry of Information, MIB, was also set up in Mumbai during the World War II. And this point in time, it was set up so that it could influence people with publishing certain facts and figures that would make these Indians want to get up, go and fight and help the British win the World War II. And at that point around, the very famous industrialist, the philanthropist, Mr. J.R.D. Tata had started with his company, that was TISCO. And under the philosophy of TISCO, what he did was he set up a lot of houses and hospitals for the people who were going and fighting these wars, so that they have access to clean water and electricity. Now that was one CSR kind of an activity done by the Tatas, which we all look up to today. We all know the Tata is a philanthropy organization. So the second set basically can be seen as a combination of setting up Ministry of Information and Broadcasting and the Tatas setting up the whole idea of being philanthropy in nature. Then the third stage of how it entered India was strongly prominent in the year of 1956, that is post-independence, when India got its independence. It was post-independence era where the government set up the Industrial Revolution Act. And as for the Industrial Revolution Act, a lot of freedom was given to its workers. Facilities were made there for its workers, and a lot of things were then controlled by the single television channel that we have, that was Doordarshan. So because of Doordarshan being the only one giving out information, later towards the 1950s, Hindustan Unilever, Philips, Dunlop, then Indian Oxygen, these companies became legalized PR service agencies, and they started doing PR for a lot of private companies. So these private organizations then led to this. Now let's move to understand what was the fourth stage. So in the fourth stage, the globalization phase, that was the early 2000s, 1990s, 2000, close to that era, where the globalization hit a strong phenomena. A lot of foreign competition started coming into the local people, and the very first PR office set up in India was by Ogilvy and Mather, one of the top known companies even today, which works as a strong PR agent, right? So Ogilvy Mather set up its offices here, and that's when it finally hit all the private companies that we need to have either a public, an internal PR agency or an internal public department, public relations department with the organization, or we need to hire services from an external PR agent. So that's how PR has taken its space in India. Now we understand as to what are the reasons, or what is it that why do we really need a PR.